defining moment. What was like the turning point in your life, whether like that specific day, whatever conversation, the crisis or the encounter, when everything shifted and you truly surrendered to God?
I try to get through this one without crying. Uh,
I mean,
I
this is a
think, I
safe
think,
space, man.
no, no,
Like,
no. I definitely feel safe. You're my brother. It's my family over there. So, I think for me, it's a culmination of a lot of things. But if I had to, um, pinpoint one particular moment, my late father-in-law, uh, Deacon Mines, he was on his deathbed. He was in his bed. He was gonna die any moment. And he reached out to um, my wife and said, "I need to talk to Will." So she called me. At first, I wasn't going to answer the phone because I thought she was calling me to nag me. We weren't together at the time. We were at odds, and I just thought she was going to call and nag me or something. She said, "My dad wants to talk to you." Um, he said he needs to talk to you. So always had the utmost respect for my father-in-law. Um, was always a great example and encourager of mine. So I gave him that respect. I went to the house and we had a long conversation. We probably talked about 20, 25 minutes. And the gist of the conversation was he said to me, uh, I can't die in peace because I don't know if you're going to do what you're supposed to do to take care of your family, your wife
mm,
and your kids. And that was it was a whole lot. It was more deep. It was a lot deeper than
mm,
that, but that was the gist of the conversation, the context. And then the spirit just came over me, I know it was the spirit of God, and I looked him in his eyes, and I took his hand, and I said, "Dad, you have my word as a man." Because as
wow,
crazy as I was and out as I was, my word still meant something to me. I said, "You have my word as a man. I'm gonna make sure that Shara and the girls have everything they need. I'm gonna take care of. We're gonna have to worry about it." Because I wasn't
wow,
taking care of them. I was ignoring them. I was just living my life as I was saying when I was preaching, just doing me, having fun. Like that's why I could say that because I was in that space where forget the world, it's me time. All I did my whole life was take care of my mother and my siblings and
yeah,
drive everybody around and pay people's bills and nobody's ever there to do nothing for me. I never had anyone I could call when I was in need. I was
yeah,
always a person everybody called. So I was just fed up with the world, fed up with God. And that was one of the things that turned me away. But in that moment, I made that promise and then I drove away. Maybe less than 10 minutes after I drove away, I get the phone call that he took his last breath. And I
wow,
had to pull the car over. And I was like, wow. And in that moment, I realized the providence of God, the grace of God, and I'm like, this is real. Like God really is real. And I said, for this man who was dying, he's about to die, and he's worried about me. And
yeah,
that messed me up, blew me
Jesus,
away. So from that moment, I went back to the house. Sharon and I got in the car. We drove to Providence to pick up my daughter from college. Drove to New Hampshire to pick up my other daughter from college, to bring them home for the funeral, all of that stuff. And in that moment, I said, I need to be here. My daughters just lost their grandfather. They kind of lost me. I need to be here, even if they don't want me to be here. And I was just hanging out, and little by little, because of that moment, we all begin to reconcile. And I said, God, this is why you let this happen. This is why I had to go through the things I went through. This is why because I had to do it. Those things
yeah,
that I did, I realized that I wish it was another way
yeah,
for God to have taught me the lessons He taught me,
yeah,
but He teaches us all in different ways, and it's relevant for whoever God is planning to pull into our lives. And I can't even tell you how many people, how many marriages my wife and I have helped people, you know, reconcile, talk, and figure things out. How many husbands and wives who I've talked to who did some of the things that I did? Because it's not always the guy, contrary to rumor.
yeah.
It's not always the guy that's out here messing up.
So we
Just
know.
so I have friends and family who, their wives was out here, and for whatever the reason.
Yeah,
But one of the things I learned is it doesn't really matter um, who's at fault. It doesn't really matter even what it is that God, um, is turning around in your life. What matters is that he turned it around. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in the big giant testimonies, right? That people don't all people really want to know is can he do it? You know, is God able? And he is, whether you're a drug addict, a sex addict, alcoholic, an abuser, a liar, a cheater, whatever you are, it doesn't matter. God's power is able to uh, turn that around. And I think that for me, I've been trying to put more focus on God's ability and less focus on what it was that I did, what my
Yeah.
failures were. I try to put more focus on God's ability to fix it and change it, and that gives me an energy when I'm preaching. It gives me energy when I'm witnessing to people because I can say it with fervor and conviction because I know that it's nothing that we can do. It's nothing in this world that we can do that will stop God from loving us. We're the ones who stop loving Him, and we stop loving ourselves. God never stops loving us, even when we're in sin. It says He hates sin. He doesn't hate the sinner. He's
Yeah.
married to the backslider. It's the
Yeah.
sin that He hates. It's not me. And
Yeah.
and sometimes we feel like God hates me. No, God don't hate you.
Yeah.
He loves you. It's what you're doing that He hates, right? And because He knows you're human, that's why He had to send Jesus. That's why Jesus had to die, because the way God is designed, He sees that sin. And even after you say you're sorry, if you don't have the right sacrifice to give to God, He's going to still see that sin. So it took Him to send Christ because that's the only sacrifice that was able to blind God's eyes to what we did and allow Him to only see who we are
Yeah.
and the value that He has for us and the purpose and the destiny that He has for us. So helping people realize that has been my goal. Like, I could talk about what I did all I want, but it's not important. What I did is not important. It's what God did that's
Yeah.
important, and just pointing people back to God. I don't like to, thank God for Pastor Allen. Pastor Allen was the one who set me straight when I first came back into the church. He was like, brother, you don't have to talk about that every time you get up. Let God do what He do, and I was like, nah, man, I gotta tell it. I want to tell it
Yeah.
everywhere I go. I want to tell it.
Yeah.
And He's like, no, you don't have to. He said, when it's relevant, tell it. But God got some more for you. He wants to say more through you than that, and so
Yeah.
I just started opening myself up to that ideal of being more open to say what God wants me to say and use what He did for me as fuel to keep pushing, to never quit, to never give up. It doesn't matter what happens in front of me now. I'm not quitting on God. I'm not quitting on God's people. I'm not quitting on my family.
Yeah.
I'm just not, because He didn't quit on me. I guess I can't.